What's going on right now that most people have no idea about? The federal government in the US is close to finally legalizing or at least loosening some of the more drastic restrictions on cannabis. But what you probably don't know is that alcohol and tobacco companies, along with an industry association of convenience stores, are the ones doing the most lobbying on the fine print of how this goes down. As a result, it's quite likely that the resulting changes in regulation will give huge advantages to large national companies while doing nothing for existing local marijuana licensees and ordinary people with past convictions for cannabis. This is really specific. Gunnison Valley, Gunnison, Crested Butte, and Allamont, Colorado is where the Gunnison River starts. The Gunnison and the Upper Colorado River join to make the Lower Colorado River, which is an extremely important source of water and power for the western states. The Gunnison provides most of the water to the Lower Colorado. So, if we don't get snow in the valley, then Las Vegas and the farmers out west are fucked. We barely gotten any snow and there's 0 in the forecast. If something doesn't change, y'all are going to have a rough summer down there. I have a full list if you wish. Oak. Some are. Right now, somebody's got the wrong idea. Right now there is no cure. Right now oysters are being robbed of their sole possession. Right now your parents miss you. Right now, our government is doing things we think only other countries do. Right now, justice is being perverted in a court of law. Right now, someone is working too hard for minimum wage. Right now no one is safe from loneliness. We're in the middle of a great extinction. Of meaning species are going extinct at a rate of up to 10,000 times the normal rate. We're actually making the Earth into a monoculture, which means across the Earth we are planting many of the same crops across vast areas such as the US Midwest and transforming the ecosystem into a place where generalists such as coyotes and deer thrive and specialists at certain ecosystems die off. We've currently transformed 40 of the Earth's landmass into crops and farms. The greater one-horned rhino population in India and Nepal is growing, as highlighted in the State of the Rhino Report, 2023, by the International Rhino Foundation. The collaboration among India, Bhutan, and Nepal, along with strict government protection and management, has led to an increase in their population over the past decade. The greater one-horned rhino population, which once numbered as low as 100 in the early 1900s, has increased to more than 4,014 now. Organized, formed religious institutions actively failing. These groups do and pay for a lot of social programs. Things like food banks, warming centers and general community support. When these places fail, the slack will need to be picked up by governments who are already crying poor. The funds and labor need to come from somewhere to serve each other. I know Reddit loathes religion, but there are real-world consequences to these places failing quickly. Many car dealerships have so much back inventory they're going to start bleeding out on their notes for new vehicles. Basically making it more expensive to buy than sell at sticker. Ram trucks have almost 2 years of new inventory unsold and new year vehicles are slated to arrive. Here is a list of cars in market supply. Link. Americans, as a whole, have no idea just how much the GOP is trying to cut from our budgets, hurting small communities and the middle class the most, while cutting taxes to the wealthy and increasing subsidies to the powerful corporations. More money for the military-industrial complex and big oil. I have a plan to do a little holiday for New Year's Eve. All my friends already made plans in their circles, and it's been a rough year. So I booked a ticket to Berlin after seeing some artists I like will be playing. I'm gonna get out and try and shake my butt to some nice electronic music. Gonna put my sunglasses on in a club like an extra from The Matrix and will then proceed to devour a falafel in a drunken haze at 4 a.m. The Ocean Cleanup Initiative has a new system to clean up an area the size of a football field every 5 seconds. The previous one extracted 282,787 kilograms of trash from the Pacific Ocean so far. They're also working on interceptors for rivers that have collected over 840 tons of trash and counting. There's a long way to go, but they have lots of support and they're making amazing progress. Okay, now back to the bad news, smiley face. We are experiencing both child and adult literacy crises predating but exacerbated by COVID. Edit the people telling me in the comments that these predated COVID, as explained in my one-sentence post, are proving my point. The population of sub-Saharan Africa is going to explode. Between 2022 and 2050, the population of sub-Saharan Africa is expected to almost double, surpassing 2 billion inhabitants by the late 2040s. The implications for immigration, child welfare and conflict over natural resources will be severe. While I see dozens of comments saying Free Palestine under every single fucking post, I don't hear anyone say Free Papua New Guinea or Free Armenia or Free the Congo or Free people from North Korean and Chinese concentration camps. It's fucking sickening how those people say that other people are supporting genocide for not speaking out, yet they don't speak out about the other genocides in the world. Humans and human jobs are being rapidly and exponentially replaced by AI, advanced robotics, and eventually AGI. Some folks recognize what is happening, but very few are willing to accept what is going on. Edit downvotes from people who either can't accept, won't accept, or are too ignorant to understand what is happening. Check back on this post in 1 year and see how much has changed. We have perfected being able to grow actual working human testicles in a laboratory for the past year. They transplanted a pair of them in a man who had testicular cancer just last year, and they worked perfectly. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to meet his health insurance deductible, so they had to be removed soon thereafter. Great stuff though! The IRS is trying to figure out the best way to catch the thousands of Americans who stole billions of dollars through the Employee Retention Credit. So many businesses claimed the credit who didn't deserve it. The credit created an entire industry of nefarious accounting companies who specializes taking advantage of this credit. The snowbelt is getting higher and higher each year. I live in Chicago and it was 55 degrees Fahrenheit out on Christmas Day with no substantial snow for the foreseeable future. As a kid we would have had snow for weeks at this point already, and my family up in northwest Michigan would be buried in it, and none of us have any. That the standard of living in England and the rest of the UK, but in Ireland, Scotland and Wales govern themselves better is extremely poor and is getting worse by the week. I don't think the current UK government gets mentioned enough in world news and just the diabolical things they are putting people through. Can't believe I'm seeing nothing in the top 200 comments about insects disappearing. The fact that you can go on a 45-minute drive across a town and arrive with a clean grill should be insanely alarming to EVE or YONE. They are the bottom of the food chain. Everyone relies on them. The Norwegian Parliament is currently debating on opening the Arctic to deep-sea mining. This industry isn't active yet, but it would be devastating to concerned ecosystems and could release even more carbon into our atmosphere. If you care about our planet, please read about it. Child marriage is legal in 40 US states and in countries around the world. Under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, 193 countries agreed to end child marriage by 2030, but at the current rate, we won't see the end of global child marriage for 300 years. The effect of TikTok on young people in America. The fact that China ships a trashier, more culturally caustic version to the US than they allow in their own country is going to cause way more problems down the line than it already does. HIV infection rates are massively increasing due to a very poor opinion of safe sex. Young adults are well educated but choose to ignore all the advice. The hookup culture is finally starting to lead to dangerous consequences. Over the past decade and a half, pretty much every person on Earth has been eating about 1-2 credit cards worth of plastic a year from microplastics. It's getting worse and isn't slowing down anytime soon, it would seem. I firmly believe the wheels are in motion for inevitable WAP-NHI UFO disclosure. This year has been massive for the topic, with many military and intelligence whistleblowers, numerous sightings and leaked evidence. Not to be completely doom and gloom, but we've been sitting on an economic problem for years. When that bubble finally pops, we're screwed in so many ways it's almost unimaginable compared to the problems we have now. Human cloning. We were naive to think that just because it was outlawed in the US in 1996 when it was done with a sheep, that large corporations and other governments stopped advancing it altogether as well. The US Treasury is actively making tax policy to bankrupt small researchers so only large companies will be able to afford to innovate, which means big businesses tech will soon own all new ideas products. Tribes Rivals is the latest entry in the Tribes franchise and is currently undergoing playtesting, which you can register to be a part of on Steam. Tribes is a futuristic FPS game which is very cool. Brain emulation, or uploading memories from the human brain into computers. While still in early stages of testing, expect brain emulation to become much more commonplace within a decade or two. Several projects have achieved repeated net positive ignitions on fusion reactions. We are only a few years away from a massive change in how we produce energy, and it will all be clean. Science is kicking cancer's ass. Almost every cancer has had treatments and drug breakthroughs in the last decade, and it keeps improving with more funding and research. There's been 11 million undocumented immigrants entered America since 2020. Some are likely terrorists. I hate MAGA crowd and vote Democratic, But this makes no sense. I finally made a good tart for a holiday dessert option, a salted chocolate one, and it was even gluten-free for the growing number of relatives with wheat problems. Maternal death rates in the United States are rising. The highest rates are among Black women. The rates have essentially doubled over the last 20 years. Venezuela is making noise about invading Guyana. For those of you who had land war in South America on your bingo cards, you might just win a free drink. There are groups using the ongoing war in Israel and Gaza to get people who would normally be anti-racist to support racism. And it is working. Twitch, YouTube, Amazon, basically all streaming services are jacking up prices to no benefit for the customer. This shit should be illegal. Where I live right now, last year it was 49 degrees. Today it is 4 degrees. I'm wearing a sweater. We had a brown Christmas. Nobody really seems worried. The Bayh-Dole Act finally being invoked by the Biden administration to address prescription drug price gouging by the pharmaceutical giants. Most people have almost no idea about almost anything going on. They just act like they do. Which is the cause of almost all the problems. Private funds are buying up public companies and creating what is essentially an unregulated stock market with no public transparency. If you think the American healthcare systems only care about profit, you're right and should know it's only getting worse with time. I commented this early, but the 2024 Taiwan election is going to seriously dictate whether or not two superpowers clash militarily. There's a huge amount of carbon stored in permafrost, an estimated 1,500 gigatons, or twice as much as the atmosphere contains. I think people know about this, but it's almost put under the rug, especially by governments. It's the ethnocide of the Uyghurs.